Hello and welcome to Notes from the Den, coming to you from a secret location in the South Downs. This week it is really sunny. The glorious sunshine has hit the south of England and I've got all of the deck open and the flaps down and the den is absolutely glorious today. So this week I've been pondering some new AI topics to write about, and I've been creating some new blogs and podcasts all about different AI things. I've had lots of good feedback from people. I've bumped into a couple of people this week that I haven't seen in a while, and they told me that they've been really enjoying the AI content. I also have had quite a few emails from my subscribers saying that they really enjoy the AI content as well. So I'm enjoying exploring this new world of AI, and I hope you are enjoying the content too. If you've got a topic of AI that you'd like me to explore, or you've got a very specific question that you would like me to have a go at answering, then if you become a subscriber on the website, you can reply to my email, or you can connect with me on LinkedIn and drop me a message there. And that endeth the shameless plug for this week. Also this week, my friend Assis Patel released the new episode of his podcast, which I am on. So Assis I met through a cold water swimming group here in Brighton, which is one of the most Brighton things I've said on the podcast, but there it is. We met there, and Assis is an artist, he's a musician, he's a graphic designer, he's a product designer, he's a creative whirlwind, I think we'll call him. And a few months ago, Assis started doing portraits of people he knew, and he put together his own portrait show, which he sold tickets to, and loads of people came and supported him. And it was just a really amazing project that Assis brought to life just through the passion of painting and creating and sharing that with people. So that's what drew me into Assis's world, and I really enjoy hanging out with him. Then a couple of weeks ago, he said to me, "Hey, Simon, you know about podcasts. I'm thinking of starting a podcast. Could you give me a hand setting it up?" So I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll come round and give you a hand setting it up." And then he also thought, well, actually, if you're going to be there, do you want to be on the podcast? So not only did I go round to Assis's house and help him get it set up and give him some tips on editing, but I also sat down and shared my story with Assis for the first episode of his podcast. So if you want to learn more about some of the mad stuff that I got up to in the early years of my career, then do check out Assis's podcast. I will put a link, as always, in the show notes. So do click over to that and have a listen. Another reason I wanted to share this with you is because I think Assis is a really good example of just putting yourself out there and sharing ideas with generosity and authenticity. So there was no monetization plan, there was no grand scheme to get sponsorship or sell mattresses or whatever people do with podcasts these days. Assis genuinely just wants to interview good people and share their stories. And there isn't really a plan to it beyond wanting to share. And I think there's something really inspirational in that. And it's what I talk a lot about in my book and also in my blogs. And also, if you're listening to the podcast episodes, you'll already know a lot of my podcasts are about that, showing up and sharing generously. And I think the way that Assis has approached this by just thinking, well, I want to share this. I don't really have a plan for it, but I think that if I do this, good things will happen. Good people will be attracted and I'll start good conversations, is a really great example of how coaches, consultants, but also just small businesses can start a podcast. I think there's this misconception that there has to be a grand master plan and it has to be linked to conversions and all this sort of marketing pressure. But actually, I do genuinely think that if you have an idea and you want to share it, then good things happen. For example, this podcast here, I don't do it because I want millions of people to listen to it. I do it because I want to help people understand the process I go through when I'm making my content, and I want to share what it's like a bit behind the scenes, because especially on social media, there's lots of people out there who look like they're smashing it every day and they're selling courses and they're selling programs and they're making £1 million, billion, trillion pounds or whatever, all this marketing bullshit that's out there. And actually, I think there's something about taking a step back from that and saying, actually, do you know what? Some weeks it's really hard. And actually, some weeks I really struggle with ideas and other weeks I really get into the flow. And this week it's really, really hot, so it's hard to stay concentrating on anything for very long. And I'm also wondering whether this podcast is just going to be full of planes and crickets and birds, but I think that's the joy of it, isn't it? So that feels like enough rambling from me this week. I do hope that you have a wonderful week and it's sunny where you are. And until next time, happy marketing.